The countdown timer reached 0, but nothing happened. No termination, no failure message, no ending of any kind. Instead, the alien displays throughout the control room began to glow brighter, and the ancient symbols shifted into new patterns. That seemed almost welcoming. The voice that spoke was no longer mechanical. It carried warmth, age, and something that might have been relief. "I am the last architect," it said. "I have maintained these crucible ships for 4 million years, waiting for a species that would understand the true nature of the test." A shimmering figure began to appear in the center of the control room. Not solid, but clearly present. Tall, graceful, with features that seemed somehow familiar despite being completely alien. "You're still alive?" He-Jin asked in amazement. "Alive is perhaps not the correct term. I am the last consciousness of my people, preserved within the quantum matrices of our ships. I have watched and waited as species after species failed to understand what we were truly testing." Daeho stepped forward, still holding the improvised tablet they had built during Phase 2. "What were you really testing? Not survival of the fittest, not logical selection of superior individuals, not even technological capability." The last architect's form became more solid as it spoke. "We were testing for wisdom, the wisdom to reject the premise that some lives matter more than others." Commander Park looked around at her crew, all 12 of them still alive, still together. "The other species that failed, they accepted your test conditions?" "Every one. They believed that survival required sacrifice, that progress demanded the elimination of the weak, that evolution meant choosing who deserved to continue and who did not." "But that's logical," Taemin said. "In a survival situation, you save who you can save." "Is it logical?" the last architect asked. "Or is it the failure of imagination that destroyed my own people?" The alien displays around them began showing new images. Not symbols this time, but scenes from the past. Civilizations rising and falling. Species making the same choices over and over again. "The architects were once like you," the voice continued. "We faced challenges that seemed to require difficult choices. Who deserved resources? Who deserved to survive? Who had the right to spread among the stars?" "What happened?" Yuri asked quietly. "We made the logical choices. We selected the best and brightest. We eliminated the weak and inefficient. We optimized ourselves for survival and expansion." The images showed a species that had achieved incredible technological advancement, but at a terrible cost. Cities where only the selected lived. Worlds where entire populations had been deemed unnecessary. And in doing so, we lost everything that made life worth living. We became perfectly efficient and completely empty, a species of survivors who had forgotten how to live. Daeho understood. "So you created the test to find a species that would reject that path?" "Yes. A species that would refuse to sacrifice their companions for survival. A species that would innovate rather than eliminate. A species that would face the impossible and simply keep working until they found a better way." 847 species failed, He-Jin said. 847 species chose logic over wisdom. They accepted that some must die for others to live. They never questioned whether there might be a third option. Byung-ho laughed, surprising everyone. "That's what we do, isn't it? We always look for the third option." "Explain," the last architect said, seeming genuinely curious. "Phase 1 gave us impossible system failures. Instead of giving up or accepting defeat, we just kept fixing things one at a time. Phase 2 took away our advanced technology," Minho added. "Instead of trying to get it back, we built something better with what we had." "Phase 3 demanded we choose who dies," Park concluded, "so we refused to let anyone die." "Precisely. At each stage, you rejected the premise of the test and found an alternative approach. This is why humanity has been granted continuance." The energy field around the station began to dissolve. Dongwu's communication systems immediately started receiving signals from Earth, from the colonies, from human ships throughout local space. "Continuance?" Daeho asked. "The right to expand into the greater galaxy. But more than that, the responsibility to carry forward the lesson that my people learned too late." New displays activated throughout the control room. Star charts showing not just human space but the entire galaxy. Thousands of worlds, millions of civilizations, all connected by networks that had been invisible to humanity until now. There, are others out there? Taemin asked. Many others. Most are like the architects became, efficient, logical, perfectly optimized for survival. They have forgotten how to solve problems that require caring more about others than yourself. And, you want us to teach them? I want you to be yourselves, to face each new challenge the way you faced these tests. When others say the situation is hopeless, keep working. When others say you must choose who lives and dies, refuse to accept the choice. When others say efficiency requires sacrifice, show them innovation instead. Yuri looked at the star charts with wonder. It's a big galaxy. It is, and it needs maintenance specialists who treat impossible situations as just another day's work. The last architect began to fade, but not disappearing, integrating somehow with the station systems. I will remain here, in this ship, as an advisor and guide. The Crucible ship networks are now open to humanity. You have access to knowledge and technology beyond your current understanding. What about the other Crucible ships? Park asked. Are they still testing species? No. The tests will end. Any species that triggers a Crucible ship from now on will be evaluated by human standards, not architect logic. Perhaps some of them will find the same wisdom you have shown. Daeho looked around at his crew, his friends, his fellow representatives of humanity. 12 ordinary people who had somehow passed a test that no other species in the galaxy had passed. So what happens now? He asked. Now you go back to your lives, back to your work. The galaxy will make contact when it's ready. Humanity will expand when it's prepared. But the most important thing you can do is remember this lesson. Which lesson? That there's always a third option. That no situation is truly hopeless as long as someone keeps working on it. That the best representatives of any species are not the superior individuals, but the ordinary people who care about each other. The alien systems throughout the station had now fully integrated with their improvised human technology. The result was something new, something that combined the best of both approaches. Will we see you again? Hyojin asked. I am part of this station now, part of the network that connects all Crucible ships. Whenever humanity needs advice about the greater galaxy, I will be here. As the last architect's presence settled into the ship's systems, normal operations began to resume. But everything was different now. The station was no longer just a monitoring post at the edge of human space. It was humanity's first embassy to the greater galaxy. Daeho picked up his tool bag and headed for his morning system diagnostic. Some things never changed. Equipment still needed maintenance. Problems still needed solving. Work still needed doing. But now, when he performed his routine checks, he was maintaining more than just a space station. He was maintaining humanity's gateway to the stars. The timer had reached 0, and the outcome was no longer unknown. Humanity had passed the test not by being superior to other species, but by being true to what made them human. They refused to give up when things seemed hopeless. They built new solutions when the old ones were taken away. They rejected the premise that anyone had to be sacrificed for others to survive. In the end, that was enough. More than enough, it was everything. As Daeho began his diagnostic routine, he smiled at the familiar satisfaction of systems running smoothly, problems solved, and another day's work ready to begin. Some things, he reflected, were worth keeping, exactly the same, even when everything else had changed forever. The crew gathered in the control room as the implications of Phase 3 sank in. The alien displays showed profiles of each person on the station. Names, ages, specializations, psychological evaluations. Everything the ship had gathered about them over the past 3 days. 12 people total, Commander Park said, reading from the alien text. The ship wants us to select 3 representatives for humanity. And the other 9? Dongwu asked, though he already knew the answer. Terminated, Hyojin translated. The records are clear about what that means. The ship will kill them. Daeho studied the profiles on the display. His own face looked back at him from one of the screens. 42 years old. Primary specialty, systems maintenance. Psychological profile, persistent, practical, non-confrontational. How did other species handle this choice? Park asked. Several different approaches, He-Jin replied, bringing up the historical records. Some refused to choose anyone. They were all eliminated for failing to make a decision. And the others? They tried to be logical about it. Selected based on intelligence, usefulness, age, health status. Some chose by democratic vote. Others let leaders decide. None of those worked? None. Every approach failed the evaluation. The ship judged all the selection methods as inadequate. Tae-min was pacing in the limited space, his frustration showing. So no matter how we choose, we fail. And if we don't choose, we all die anyway. That seems to be the pattern, Hyejin confirmed. Daeho was quiet, thinking. He looked at the alien displays, then at his crewmates, then back at the displays. What if we're looking at this wrong? He said finally. What do you mean? Park asked. Phase. 1 tested our persistence. We passed by not giving up when things seemed hopeless. Phase 2 tested our innovation. We passed by adapting instead of trying to restore what we lost. So what is Phase 3 really testing? Maybe it's not testing our ability to choose who lives. Maybe it's testing whether we accept the premise that someone has to die. Yuri looked confused. But the ship is forcing us to choose. We don't have a choice about that, don't we? In Phase 1, the ship forced cascading failures on us, but we didn't accept that the failures were unstoppable. In Phase 2, the ship took away our technology, but we didn't accept that we needed that specific technology to survive. You think we should refuse to choose? Park asked. I think we should solve the problem differently, the same way we solved everything else, by not accepting the rules of the test. Byung-ho was nodding slowly. What kind of solution were you thinking? Daeho moved to one of the working terminals they had built during Phase 2. The ship wants representatives of humanity to judge our species. Fine. Let's give it representatives. How? All of us. He started typing on the basic keyboard they had constructed. Minho, I need you to help me access the ship's memory systems. Not to change anything, just to upload data. What kind of data? Everything. Our complete personnel. Files. Our memories. Our experiences. Our knowledge. Everything that makes us human. Hyejin looked intrigued. You want to upload human consciousness into the ship? Not consciousness exactly, but everything that defines us. Our perspectives, our problem-solving approaches, our values. If the ship wants to judge humanity, let it judge all of humanity. Is that even possible with our basic equipment? We built life support systems from spare parts, Daeho reminded her. We built communications equipment from electronic scraps. We can build a data transfer system. The crew worked through the night, using their improvised computers and basic programming knowledge. They created a system to upload detailed personality profiles and memory data to the ship's alien storage systems. It wasn't true consciousness transfer, but it was something unprecedented. Instead of selecting 3 people to represent the species, they were providing the ship with comprehensive data about all 12 of them. This is incredible, Minho said as they tested the upload system. We're basically giving the ship a complete human database to work with. More than that, Taemin added. We're showing it how humans work together, how we share knowledge and support each other. The alien displays began reacting as their data upload started. New symbols appeared, more complex than anything they had seen before. The ship's evaluation systems were processing information at levels far beyond the original test parameters. Upload successful, Yuri reported. The ship now has detailed profiles of all 12 crew members. But we still haven't selected representatives, Park pointed out. We've run out of time. The countdown timer showed only minutes remaining. In Phase 3, the alien voice spoke with its usual mechanical tone. Selection time limit approaching. Identify representatives for species evaluation, or face automatic termination of all subjects. Daeho stood up from his improvised workstation. Computer, we refuse to select representatives according to your parameters. The alien systems responded immediately. Refusal to select representatives results in species failure. Prepare for termination. We're not refusing to provide representatives, Deho continued calmly. We're providing better representatives than your test requested. Explain. You wanted 3 individuals to represent humanity. We're giving you 12 individuals whose combined knowledge and experience provide a complete representation of human problem-solving capabilities. The alien displays flickered with rapid data processing. The ship's artificial intelligence was clearly struggling with this unprecedented response. Previous test subjects selected individual representatives based on optimal characteristics. Your approach does not match established evaluation protocols. That's the point, Park said, stepping forward to join Deho. Our species doesn't work through individual optimization. We work through collective cooperation. The test parameters require selection of superior individuals for species representation. Then your test parameters are flawed, Yuri said boldly. Humans don't succeed because some of us are superior to others. We succeed because all of us contribute different strengths. More crew members stepped forward. Byung-ho, Min-ho, Tae-min, Hee-jin, Dong-woo. One by one, they rejected the premise of the test. You can judge all of us together or you can judge none of us, Deho said, but we won't participate in selecting some humans as more worthy of life than others. The alien systems were processing frantically now. Symbols flowed across every display in patterns too rapid to follow. The ship's artificial intelligence was encountering something completely outside its programming. Species demonstrates unprecedented approach to survival evaluation. Consultation with primary protocols required. The countdown timer stopped at 37 seconds. Consultation? Hee-jin asked. I think we broke their test, Tae-min said. The control room fell silent except for the hum of their improvised equipment. They waited, not knowing if they had just saved humanity or doomed it. Then the alien displays changed completely. New symbols appeared, different from anything they had seen before. Ancient, complex, beautiful. And for the first time in 3 days, the mechanical voice was replaced by something else. Something that sounded almost alive. I have been waiting so very long for a species to understand. The final test was about to reveal its true purpose. Phase 2 began in darkness. The advanced computers were dead. The sophisticated life support systems had shut down. Even the artificial gravity was failing, leaving the crew floating in sections throughout the station. Emergency power provided basic lighting, but everything else was gone. The technology that had kept them alive in space had simply vanished. In the control room, Deho pushed himself off a wall to float toward Commander Park. Without gravity, movement was slow and clumsy. Status report, Park said, though her voice echoed strangely in the thin air. Life support is running on backup chemical systems only, Byung-ho reported from his emergency kit readings. We have maybe 6 hours of breathable air. Water recycling is offline, added Min-ho. We're down to whatever is in the storage tanks. No computer systems at all, Tae-min said, holding up his dead tablet. Everything electronic more advanced. Then a flashlight is non-functional. Hee-jin was studying the alien displays, which somehow still worked. The ship has disabled all technology beyond early 21st century Earth level. We have basic electrical power, simple tools, raw materials. That's it. What were other species supposed to do with this, Yuri asked. According to the records, most tried to restore their advanced systems. They spent all their time attempting to repair what had been taken away. And the ones that didn't? They waited for rescue or tried to send distress signals. None of them adapted to working with primitive technology. Deho was floating near one of the tool storage lockers, examining what they had available. Hand tools, basic electronic components, welding equipment, raw metal, and plastic materials. So we don't try to fix the computers, he said. We build new systems that don't need computers. Build new life support with hand tools? Min-ho asked. Is that even possible? Let's find out. Deho pushed himself toward the main life support section, followed by the rest of the technical crew. The sophisticated atmospheric processors were dead, but the basic infrastructure was still there. Pipes, air ducts, power cables. We need to think simple, he told the group. What's the most basic way to clean air and recycle water? Chemical filters for air scrubbing, Byung-ho suggested. We have industrial chemicals in storage. Manual pumps for water circulation, added Yuri. Like old submarine systems. Heat exchangers using the alien hull plating, said Minho. The metal has excellent thermal properties. They started working immediately. No computer modeling, no sophisticated engineering software. Just hands, tools, and human knowledge. Daeho and Byung-ho began building a basic air scrubber using chemical filters and a hand-cranked fan system. The design was crude but functional. Air goes in, chemicals remove the carbon dioxide and other waste gases, clean air comes out. Meanwhile, Yuri and Minho tackled water recycling. They built a simple distillation system using salvaged heating elements and metal tubing. Dirty water in, heat applied, steam captured and condensed, clean water out. The work was slow without powered tools, but it was satisfying in a different way. Every connection was made by hand. Every joint was tested personally. They could see exactly how each part worked. This is actually better than the computer-controlled systems, Yuri said as they tested their water recycler. Simpler, less likely to break down. More efficient, too, Minho added, checking the power consumption. The old systems used a lot of energy for the computer controls and fancy sensors. This just does the job. Other crew members joined the effort. Communications. Officer Dong-woo started building a basic radio system using spare electronics. Dr. Choi helped design more efficient chemical processes. Even Commander Park contributed, organizing supplies and coordinating the different work teams. Hours passed. The alien countdown showed Phase 2 was half complete, but instead of struggling with primitive conditions, the crew was actually improving their situation. Look at this, Byung-ho said, pointing to their jury-rigged life support readings. We're processing air faster than the original systems did, and using less power, Minho confirmed. These simple systems are incredibly efficient. Daeho paused in his work on a backup atmospheric monitor. I think I understand what's happening here. What do you mean? The ship disabled our advanced technology, right? It expected us to either try to restore it or give up, but instead we're building better systems. Hee-jin looked up from her translation work. Better, more efficient, more reliable, easier to maintain. We're not trying to recreate what we lost. We're creating something new that works better for our situation. The alien displays were showing new patterns, and Hee-jin's translation software was still functional through some basic electronic components. The ship's evaluation systems are confused, she reported. It says our behavior is outside expected parameters. Previous species either failed to maintain life support or succeeded only by restoring their original technology. We're doing neither, Park observed. Exactly. We're innovating instead of restoring. As Phase 2 entered its final hours, the crew had not just maintained basic life support, they had actually improved it. Their hand-built systems were running more efficiently than the original computer-controlled equipment. Dong-woo had even managed to establish limited communications with his basic radio system. I can't reach Earth, but I can communicate between different sections of the station, and the power consumption is minimal. The ship is probably jamming long-range communications. Anyway, Taemin said, but local communications are all we need right now. With 2 hours remaining in Phase 2, they started on additional projects. A manual navigation system using the alien hull sensors. An improved heating system that used waste heat from their other equipment. Even a simple food preparation system that worked without computerized controls. You know what? Yuri said as she tested their new heating system. I don't want the old systems back, these work better. They're more honest, Daeho agreed. You can see exactly what each part does. No black boxes, no mysterious computer codes, just physics and engineering. The alien voice spoke again. Phase 2 nearing completion. Species demonstrates adaptation beyond recorded parameters. Beyond recorded parameters, Park repeated. That sounds good. Or it sounds like we're breaking their test, Hee-jin said. The ship wasn't designed for a species that would thrive with limited technology. Maybe that's the point, Deho suggested. Maybe the test isn't really about technology at all. What do you mean? Think about it. Phase 1 tested whether we would keep working when things seemed hopeless. Phase 2 tests whether we adapt to limitations instead of fighting them. So what's Phase 3 testing? Before anyone could speculate, the countdown reached 0. Their improvised systems kept running perfectly as the alien voice announced the next stage. Phase 2 complete. Innovation confirmed. Species demonstrates technological adaptation superior to projected capabilities. New symbols appeared on the displays, and the translation that followed made everyone in the control room go quiet. Phase 3 beginning now. Sacrifice for continuance. Station inhabitants must select representatives for species evaluation. Non-selected individuals will be terminated. Selection time limit, 24 hours. The silence stretched for a long moment. Terminated, Park said quietly. It wants us to choose who lives and who dies, Taman said. Just like the other 847 species, Yejin added. This is where they all failed. Deho looked around at his friends and colleagues. People who had worked together for years. People who had just spent the last 2 days proving that humans could solve any problem if they worked together. Well, he said finally, I guess we need to figure out how to solve this one too. How do you solve choosing who dies? Yuri asked. Deho smiled grimly. The same way we solved everything else. We don't accept the premise of the problem. The first sign of Phase 1 beginning was the temperature drop. Deho noticed it immediately when he woke up in his quarters. His breath made small clouds in the air that had been perfectly climate-controlled for 5 years. He checked his wall display. 24 hours remaining. Phase 1 had started while he slept. By the time he reached the control room, the crew was already gathering. Commander Park was coordinating with her tablet, trying to manage multiple crisis reports coming in from all over the station. Life support is failing in sections C through F, reported Chief Maintenance Officer Byung-ho Nam. The air recyclers keep shutting down. Every time I fix one, 2 others break. Power fluctuations in the main reactor, added Power Systems Specialist Min-ho Kang. The safety systems keep triggering automatic shutdowns. Tae-min looked up from his monitoring station. It's not random. The ship is creating systematic failures. Each repair triggers new problems. Deho pulled up the station diagnostics on his tablet. The display was covered with red warning indicators. Critical failures everywhere. Oxygen levels dropping. Water purification offline. Emergency power only. Evacuation protocols, Park ordered. All non-essential personnel to the central sections. Emergency supplies and equipment only. Commander, Hyejin said from her research station. I've been studying the other species' test records. This is exactly how Phase 1 works. The ship creates cascading failures that seem impossible to stop. How did the other species handle it? Most gave up after 12 to 16 hours. They concluded the situation was hopeless and stopped trying to fix things. Deho was already moving toward the maintenance lockers, pulling out his tools and spare parts. What about the species that didn't give up? They lasted longer, but eventually the logical conclusion overwhelmed them. When every repair creates 2 new problems, mathematics says you can never get ahead. Maybe mathematics is wrong, Deho said. He headed for the nearest malfunctioning system, the air recycler in Section D. Yuri Shin, the junior engineer, followed him despite Park's evacuation orders. You should go to the safe sections, Deho told her. With respect, sir, you'll work faster with help. They reached the air recycler unit. It was completely dead, no power, no indicators. Deho opened the maintenance panel and started checking connections. Power coupling is burned out, he diagnosed. Simple fix. He replaced the coupling with a spare from his kit. The unit came online immediately, humming with restored life. Green lights appeared on the status panel. Then his tablet started beeping with new alerts. 2 more air recyclers had failed in other sections, see? Yuri said. Fix 1, break 2. The ship is cheating. Daeho looked at the new failure reports, then back at the working recycler. Maybe. Or maybe it's just testing something specific. What do you mean? The ship wants to see if we give up, so it makes the situation look hopeless. But what if the point isn't to solve all the problems at once? He was already walking toward the next failure, in Section E. What if the point is to just keep working no matter what? They reached the second recycler. This one had a different problem: clogged filters and a damaged intake valve. Daeho started the repair process while Yuri monitored for new failures. 3 more recyclers down, she reported as his tablet lit up with alerts. Noted, Daeho said calmly, not stopping his work. Doesn't that bother you? Why should it? I can only fix one thing at a time anyway. He finished the second recycler and moved to the third, then the fourth. Each repair was different problems, different solutions. But each one was fixable with the tools they had and the knowledge they possessed. Hours passed. The tablet kept beeping with new alerts. More systems failing, more emergencies developing, but Daeho just kept working. One problem, one solution, next problem. Other crew members started joining them. Byung-ho brought additional tools and supplies. Min-ho tackled the power grid issues with the same steady approach. Even some of the non-technical staff began helping, carrying parts and monitoring systems. How long has it been? Yuri asked during a brief break. Daeho checked the time. 14 hours. 14 hours? It feels like we've been doing this forever. That's the point, Hyojin said, appearing with fresh coffee for the workers. The ship is trying to wear you down psychologically, make you feel like the work is endless and pointless. Is it working? Daeho asked. She looked around at the crew. Nobody had given up. People were tired, but they were still moving, still fixing things, still solving problems. No, she said with surprise. You're all still going. Of course we are, Byung-ho said from inside a power junction box. This is just a really bad day. We've all had bad days before. Commander Park appeared in the corridor, looking amazed. Station-wide status report. We're actually gaining ground. More systems coming online than failing. How is that possible? Taemin asked over the communication system. Daeho wiped sweat from his forehead and considered the question. Maybe because we stopped trying to fix everything at once. We just started fixing whatever was in front of us. The ship's programming might not account for that approach, Yijin suggested. It's designed to overwhelm species that try to solve the crisis systematically. But we're not trying to solve the crisis, Yuri realized. We're just doing our jobs. Exactly. Every day on a space station things break. Every day we fix them. This is just a day when more things are breaking than usual. The approach seemed almost too simple, but it was working. By hour 18, they had more systems running than failing. By hour 20, the cascade of new failures was slowing down. By hour 22, something changed. The alien symbols on the walls shifted to new patterns. The translation came through the station systems in that same flat, mechanical voice. Phase 1 performance parameters exceeded. Species demonstrates persistence beyond projected limits. We're winning? Min-ho asked. We're not giving up, Daeho corrected. There's a difference. The countdown timer showed 2 hours remaining in Phase 1, but the system failures were stopping. One by one, the red alerts on their tablets turned yellow, then green. With 30 minutes left in the phase, the last critical system came back online. Full life support restored. Normal power throughout the station. All systems operating within normal parameters. The crew gathered in the control room, exhausted but triumphant. They had worked for 23.5 hours straight, fixing an endless stream of problems, never stopping, never giving up. Phase 1 complete, announced the alien voice. Species evaluation, persistence confirmed. Anomalous behavior noted for analysis. Anomalous behavior? Park asked. Hyojin was studying the new alien text appearing on the displays. It says we approach the test differently than any previous species. Instead of trying to solve the crisis, as a whole, we treated each problem as an individual challenge. And that's wrong? No, that's what made us succeed. The ship was designed to overwhelm species that think systematically. It wasn't prepared for a species that thinks practically. Daeho sat down in one of the control chairs, finally allowing himself to feel tired. So what's Phase 2? New symbols appeared and the translation followed immediately. Phase 2 will begin in 60 seconds. Innovation under limitation. All advanced technology will be disabled. Wait, Yuri said. All advanced technology? The lights went out. The computers shut down. The air recyclers stopped humming. Even the artificial gravity began to fade. In the emergency lighting that came on automatically, Daeho looked around at his crew. They were tired, but they were still here, still ready to work. Well, he said, I guess we find out how good we are at building things from scratch. The countdown to Phase 2 reached 0, and humanity's real test was just beginning. 48 hours remained on the countdown timer when Dr. Hyejin Choi arrived at Taeguk 7. Her transport ship docked with the station just as the second day of the crisis began. She was the best xenoarchaeologist in human space, and Commander Park had called for her help the moment they realized what they were dealing with. Daeho met her at the airlock. He had not slept much in the past 24 hours. None of them had. The alien systems kept running, showing new displays every few hours. The countdown never stopped. Dr. Choi, he said, shaking her hand. Thank you for coming so quickly. She was a tall woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her bags were full of scanning equipment and research tablets loaded with decades of alien technology studies. Call me Heejin, she said. Show me everything. They walked to the control room together. Along the way, Daeho explained what had been happening. The alien displays were now active throughout the station, not just in the control room, but everywhere. Corridors, living quarters, even the bathrooms had glowing symbols on the walls. The symbols change every few hours, Daeho said. Taemin has been recording everything, but we still don't understand most of it. What about communications with Earth? That's the problem. We can't reach anyone. No radio, no quantum relay, nothing. It's like we're cut off from the rest of the universe. Hyejin stopped walking. Complete communications blackout? Yes. Started about 6 hours after the countdown began. Commander Park thinks there's some kind of energy field around the station. They reached the control room. Taemin was still there, surrounded by tablets and papers covered with his notes. He looked up when they entered. Dr. Choi, perfect timing. I think I've made a breakthrough with the translation. Heejin set down her bags and looked at the alien displays covering the walls. The symbols flowed like liquid light, beautiful and impossible to ignore. These are architect symbols, she said quietly. Architect? Daeho asked. The race that built this ship originally. We've found traces of them throughout the galaxy. They disappeared millions of years ago, but they left things behind. Testing facilities, evaluation centers. Taemin pulled up his latest translation work on his tablet. According to this, the ship is something called a crucible ship. It's designed to test younger species. Test them for what? Commander Park asked, entering the room with her usual quick pace. Heejin was studying the symbols more closely now, using a small scanner to record their patterns. Continuance, she said. The right to survive and expand into the greater galaxy. The room went quiet except for the low hum of the alien systems. You mean survival, Park said. This is a test to see if humanity deserves to live. Not just live, Heejin replied. To continue as a spacefaring civilization. The architects believed that only certain species should be allowed to spread among the stars. Daeho felt a cold chill run down his spine. How many species have taken this test? Hyejin connected her equipment to the station's computers and started downloading data from the alien systems. The translation software worked faster with her specialized programs. Numbers began appearing on her screen. Test records, species evaluations, results. 847 species tested over the past 4 million years, she read. Her voice became quieter with each word. 0 passed. The silence stretched longer this time. 0? Taemin whispered. None of them passed? None. Every species that triggered a crucible ship evaluation was found inadequate. Their civilizations were marked for containment or elimination. Deho looked at the countdown timer. 47 hours and 33 minutes remaining. What happens if we fail? Based on the records, complete isolation. The energy field around the station would expand to cover all human space. No more interstellar travel. No more expansion. Humanity would be trapped in our current systems forever. And if we try to break through the field? Hee-jin's face was grim. The automated defense systems would activate. The architects built weapons that could destroy entire star systems. Communications officer Dongwu Zhang had been monitoring their isolated position from his station nearby. He stepped into the room with new readings. "I've been scanning the energy field around us," he said. "It's not just blocking our communications. Our escape pods won't function. The shuttlecraft engines won't start. We're completely trapped here." "So we represent all of humanity in this test," Park said. "Whatever happens here determines the fate of our entire species." "That's correct," Hee-jin confirmed. "The Crucible ship evaluates the representatives it finds. Their actions and decisions become the judgment for the whole civilization." Deho sat down heavily in one of the control chairs. This morning he had been a simple technician doing routine maintenance. Now he was somehow responsible for the survival of the human race. "Tell us about the test," Park ordered. "How does it work?" Hee-jin brought up more data on the main screens. The alien records showed test procedures that had been followed for millions of years. 3 phases, she explained, each one lasting 24 hours. The first phase tests persistence under pressure. Most species give up when the challenges become too difficult. What kind of challenges? System failures, life support problems, cascading emergencies that seem impossible to solve. The ship creates scenarios where logic says you should surrender. Taemin was taking notes as fast as he could write. And the species that don't give up? What happens to them? They face phase 2, innovation under limitation. The ship removes most of their advanced technology and forces them to maintain operations with primitive tools. That doesn't sound too bad, Dongwu said. Remember, no species has ever passed, Hee-jin reminded them. Phase 2 has broken civilizations that survived Phase 1. The records show that most species either panic without their technology or spend all their time trying to restore what they lost, instead of adapting, Deho said thoughtfully. Exactly. And if somehow a species makes it through Phase 2, they face the final test. Which is? Hee-jin paused before answering. Phase 3 tests sacrifice for continuance. The ship forces the representatives to choose who among them will survive to represent their species to the galaxy. The room fell silent again. Everyone was thinking the same thing. How do you choose who lives and who dies? How do you decide whose life matters more? Most species refuse to choose, Hee-jin continued. They're eliminated for failing to make the hard decision. The few that do choose typically select based on intelligence, usefulness, or social rank. And that's wrong too? Park asked. According to the architect records, yes. Every approach has failed. Every species has been found inadequate. The countdown timer reached 47 hours exactly, and new symbols appeared on the alien displays. The translation came through clearly. Phase 1 will begin in 23 hours. Prepare for evaluation. Deho stood up from his chair. Despite everything they had learned, despite the impossible odds, he felt something like determination growing in his chest. Well, he said, I guess we're about to find out what makes humans different from the other 847 species. You think we can pass? Dongwu asked. Deho looked around the room at his friends and colleagues. They were scared, but they were still here. Still working. Still trying to understand and prepare. I don't know, he said honestly, but I know one thing. We're going to face this the way we face everything else. One problem at a time, one solution at a time. We keep working until we find a way. The countdown continued. 23 hours until Phase 1 began. 23 hours to prepare for a test that had defeated every other species in the galaxy. But humans had always been good at doing things that seemed impossible. Dae-ho Kim walked through the quiet corridors of Deep Space Monitoring Station Taeguk-7 with his usual steady pace. His heavy boots made soft clicking sounds on the metal floor. In his right hand, he carried his tool bag. In his left, he held his daily checklist on a small tablet. Tuesday morning meant system diagnostics. It always did. The station floated in the dark space at the edge of human territory. Far from Earth, far from the busy shipping lanes, far from everything that most people called home. But Dae-ho liked it here. The work was honest. The problems were real. When something broke, you fixed it. When something worked, you made sure it kept working. He had been the chief technician on Taeguk-7 for 5 years now. 5 years of the same routine. Wake up at 6, coffee and breakfast, system checks from 8 to noon, lunch break, more repairs until 6, dinner, read technical manuals until bed. Simple life. Good life. Today felt exactly like every other Tuesday. The air recyclers hummed their familiar tune. The gravity generators made their usual low whisper. The main computers blinked their normal patterns of green and yellow lights. Everything was as it should be. Dae-ho reached the central control room. The massive chamber stretched 3 stories high, filled with screens and control panels that monitored the galaxy beyond. Most of the equipment was human-built. Clean lines, logical layouts, things that made sense to human minds. But the bones of the station were different. Alien. 50 years ago, a human exploration ship had found this place drifting empty in space. Nobody knew what kind of aliens had built it. The ship was ancient beyond measure, dead for millions of years, maybe more. But the hull was strong, the basic systems still worked, and it was big enough to house a proper monitoring station. So, humans had moved in. They bolted their own equipment to the alien walls. They ran their cables through alien conduits. They made it work, the way humans always did. Take something broken, fix it, make it useful. Dae-ho set his tool bag down next, to the main diagnostic console. The console was purely human technology, installed just 2 years ago. Bright blue screen, simple buttons, everything labeled in clear Korean and English text. He plugged in his tablet and started the morning routine. System diagnostic beginning, he said to the empty room. Talking to himself was an old habit. In the quiet of space, sometimes you needed to hear a voice, even your own. The first checks were always the life support systems. Air pressure good, oxygen levels good, temperature control working fine. The number scrolled across his tablet in neat columns. Everything exactly where it should be. Next came power systems. The fusion reactors were running at 93% efficiency. A little low, but still well within normal range. Dae-ho made a note to check the fuel injectors later in the week. Probably just needed cleaning. He moved on to the sensor arrays. This was the real work of Taeguk-7, the massive dishes and detector grids that watched the space beyond human territory. Looking for threats, looking for opportunities, looking for anything unusual in the vast dark between the stars. The sensors were working perfectly, maybe too perfectly. Dae-ho frowned at the readings. Everything was exactly optimal. That never happened. There was always something a little off, a minor calibration issue, a small power fluctuation, something that needed attention. But today, every single system showed perfect operation. Strange, he muttered, scrolling through the data again. In 5 years of Tuesday morning checks, he had never seen readings this clean. He decided to run a deeper diagnostic. Sometimes the surface readings looked good while problems hid underneath. Dae-ho accessed the core systems, the ones that connected directly to the alien parts of the station. The moment his fingers touched the control interface, everything changed. The lights in the control room suddenly shifted from white to deep blue. The normal hum of the equipment became something else, something lower, something that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Dae-ho stepped back from the console. What the hell? Screens that had been dark for as long as anyone could remember began to glow. Not the human screens, the alien ones, built into the walls themselves, covered with strange symbols that looked like flowing water made of light. The symbols moved. They danced and shifted, forming patterns that hurt to look at directly. Deho had seen alien writing before, in museums and research papers, but this was different. This was alive. A sound filled the control room. Not quite music, not quite speech. It seemed to come from everywhere at once. The walls, the floor, the air itself vibrated with it, deep and powerful, like the voice of something vast and ancient. Then the human system started reacting. Every screen in the room lit up with urgent warnings. Red alert messages scrolled past in Korean and English. Unknown system activation. Alien protocols detected. All personnel report to stations. Deho's hands moved automatically to the emergency communication panel. His training kicked in, even though his mind was still trying to process what he was seeing. "Control room to all stations," he said into the microphone. His voice was steady, professional. "We have a situation. Unknown system activation in progress. All senior staff report to Central Control immediately." The response came quickly. Commander Sojin Park's voice crackled through the speakers. "Dae-ho, what's your status? We're seeing readings throughout the station." "I'm not sure, Commander. I was running the standard diagnostic and something triggered. The alien systems are coming online." "On my way, don't touch anything else." But it was too late for that advice. The systems were already running themselves. More screens activated every second. The symbols flowed faster, creating new patterns, new meanings that danced just beyond understanding. Science Officer Tae-min Lee arrived first, running into the control room with his shirt half-buttoned. His eyes went wide when he saw the walls. "Of active alien displays, my God," he whispered. "How long has this been going on?" "About 3 minutes," Deho replied. "Started the moment I accessed the core diagnostic systems." Commander Park burst through the doorway, followed by 2 security officers. She was a small woman, but she commanded attention just by walking into a room. Her eyes swept the chamber, taking in the situation with military efficiency. "Report," she ordered. Deho explained what had happened. Standard diagnostic, perfect readings, deeper scan. Then everything went crazy. While he talked, more symbols appeared on the alien screens. These ones were different, simpler, almost like they were trying to communicate something specific. Tae-min pulled out his tablet and started recording everything. "Commander, I think it's trying to show us something. Look at that pattern there, it's repeating." The pattern was a series of geometric shapes arranged in a specific order. Triangle, circle, square, triangle, circle, square, over and over, getting brighter each time. Then new symbols appeared underneath. These looked almost like numbers. "A countdown. 72, Tae-min said, reading from his translation software. 71. 70. It's counting down." "Counting down to what?" Park asked. Before anyone could answer, the alien voice returned. Louder this time, more urgent. The translation came through the station's computer system in flat, mechanical tones. "Final evaluation initiated. Duration 72 hours, outcome unknown." The countdown continued. 69 hours, 68, 67. In the silence that followed, Deho realized that his simple Tuesday morning diagnostic had just changed everything. Not just for the station, not just for the crew, but possibly for all of humanity. The timer kept counting down and nobody knew what would happen when it reached 0.